Good evening and welcome to this latest edition of Toastmasters Unplugged, brought to you by the District 71 brand builders. And a special thank you to Olga Byrne, who's pulling all the levers behind the scenes. Please join me in giving a very special welcome to our regional advisor, Lilian Shaftacola. Lilian has worked in the field of credit risk management for over 20 years. She holds degrees in mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, quantitative finance, all achieved in the United States. She was born in Cyprus, but now lives in France and is the regional advisor for Region 10, which, just to give you an idea of the scope of that, it is 8 districts and basically every country in Europe from Andorra to the Vatican City. Lilian, you're very welcome to District 71.
Thank you. It's lovely being here with you.
Tell me, Lilian, what brought you to Toastmasters in the first place?
That's an interesting question that somebody asked me actually earlier today, and it forced me to go back so many years. And that's when I remembered that the first time I went to a Toastmasters club, I didn't even know what it was. Basically, a friend of mine wanted to attend, and because she knew that I was a very introverted person who wouldn't willingly try such a club, she said to me, "Let's go out Friday night. I'm meeting some friends." Of course, I said to her. And there I find myself in a Toastmasters club. I thought everybody there was very, very strange at first, because there they were on a Friday night delivering speeches of all things. I was even a bit panicked and I thought about escaping. But they were so warm and friendly there, so welcoming. And I admit that I felt myself being pulled in. And I started thinking, they speak so well. Maybe one day, if I come to this club, I can also learn how to speak in public. So it pulled me in. And that's the story of how I got involved with Toastmasters so many years ago.
And what club was that, Lilian?
That was what was called in those days the Nicosia Crusaders Toastmasters Club. It's a club in Cyprus. It's been around for many decades. It's actually one of the oldest clubs in Europe. They have now removed Crusaders from their name, so they are simply the Nicosia Toastmasters Club. Sadly, I'm no longer a member because I'm no longer living in Cyprus and the club is in person only.
And what club are you a member of at the moment?
At the moment, I'm a member of a club in Paris, Paris La Défense. I'm also a member of a club in Greece, Thessaloniki Toastmasters. And I'm working on setting up with some other wonderful people a prospect club in Rennes, France.
Wow. And tell me, what was your favorite role in Toastmasters at club level?
Leadership role? I would say it was VP Education.
Really?
I really enjoyed it, even though the first time I was VP Education, many, many years ago, many of our members did not yet use email. That made the situation rather complicated. We're talking about elderly people in Cyprus maybe 20 years ago. So what would happen was I would also have to print out copies and send them via the post. It made it rather complicated. And if I wanted to see who was willing to take on a role, there was no WhatsApp then, no Easy Speak or other methods online. I had to actually call people up, and it used to take a lot of time chatting to everybody about taking on roles.
But like a good Toastmaster, you adapted and pivoted and you sorted it out.
Indeed.
Tell me, Lilian, what important leadership lessons have you learned on your journey from being a club member, to now being a regional advisor?
I would say I've learned a lot. Really, being a leader in Toastmasters has taught me so many skills that I've been able to transfer into my professional life. But some of the main rules, let's say golden rules of leadership, I've made up over the years have been, for example, learn to embrace the unexpected, because you can always plan carefully, and you should plan, but you should also have in mind that it's real life and there are many twists and turns in the road. So you have to be willing to shift gears at a moment's notice. That was one big leadership lesson. Another one was shifting from the I to the we mentality, which is very important for any leader. You really need buy-in for your projects, your events to be successful. And that means always remembering your team, because they're the ones who will make the magic happen. I also learned that you really need to show empathy at all times. And sometimes it's difficult when you're leading a diverse team, because you have so many different personalities with different ideas, different priorities, and they may not be going in the direction you want them to. But that's no reason to blacklist them. Too many people may lose their temper. And I've realized over the years that you shouldn't do that. Toastmasters has taught me to be open and really actively listen to people and their problems, their concerns, and see how to support them. And it makes things much easier when you can communicate with them and understand each other. It avoids so many conflicts. So that's another big leadership lesson. And then I would say recognition is golden. You can't recognize people enough in any organization, but especially in a volunteer one such as Toastmasters. People are giving up so much time and energy. So you should recognize them, cheer them on. It may be a simple thank you, or maybe you'll give them an award. That's up to you. But do let them know that they're appreciated. It will mean so much and make all the difference. And possibly the final lesson I would come up with now is be there and care. And it's very simple. Just be there. As a leader, you may not be able to save the world, but it's really important for people to know that you're present, that you care about them, you're willing to discuss. That would be my final major learning lesson that I'm applying to all my life. Be there and care as a leader.
That's a wonderful piece of advice, that, Lilian. Tell me, what would you say to someone who is maybe considering a leadership position, but coming up to that time of year where you might get that tap on the shoulder to say, would you like to, or have you considered? But what would you say to someone who's considering a leadership position?
I would borrow a quote from a famous sports company and say, just do it. It's as simple as that. The reason I've progressed over the years is that I don't say no. People would come to me sometimes with some very wild ideas, crazy suggestions. Why didn't you go for this role? Or why didn't you try for this? And I would say to myself, but am I ready? In the end, though, I would go for it, and I've never regretted it. It's all too easy to start thinking and questioning ourselves and again, and eventually talking ourselves out of something. But I would say don't do it, because Toastmasters offers this wonderful, safe environment where you can grow. So do take advantage of it. Don't hesitate. As long as you're enthusiastic and you're willing to work, you'll be able to handle it. Your fellow Toastmasters will be there to support you. You can have excellent mentors. And in leadership roles, you're offered so much training that you can grow continuously. That would be my advice. Just do it.
And sometimes, of course, Lilian, there are wonderful opportunities out there that are available to people who get involved in Toastmasters.
Of course there are. If you look outside the club, you can, for example, become an area director. And that can teach you so much, working with 4 to 6 clubs and supporting them through their journey, trying to find ways to help them grow and improve the quality of their meetings, working out how to hold the area contest, holding club officer trainings. And these are great learning lessons. And again, I said, there's so much support for district officers nowadays. It's wonderful.
That's a wonderful example, Lilian. Of course, leadership, as you quite rightly said, it's not always smooth sailing. And since COVID, our organization, like so many others, are grappling with changes, including a loss of members and the difficulties between hybrid and virtual and in-person meetings. How would you suggest we build back stronger?
This is actually a topic that's really being discussed, as you can imagine, James, because there is some concern about it. People are very busy nowadays. There's a lot of things happening post-COVID. And we want to make sure as an organization that we can remain strong and continue to grow. One thing I would say is that we always need to remember members. Members are the lifeblood of the organization. There's no doubt about it. Therefore, we need to reach out to our members and see what their needs are. We always need to be communicating with them, sharing stories, seeing maybe what would make them feel happier, how we can improve, how we can go forward with higher quality meetings, perhaps higher quality events, involving them. And I'm talking about current members, but it's also useful to look at some of our past members as well. And in a non-intrusive way, try to see why maybe they're no longer with us and if there's anything that can be done about it. Also, to spend time with prospect members when somebody comes to a club or expresses interest. Again, we should be there for them, discussing with them and really listening to them to see what we can offer. We also need to remember that Toastmasters, as an international organization, actually can really take advantage of that. It's a fact that some markets right now may be rather stagnant, but there are other parts of the world where there's still a lot of potential for Toastmasters to grow. And we also have to look towards those markets. Therefore, these are some of the things I would do. Primarily, be there for the members, share stories with them, and make sure we're addressing their needs. And also, remember that we need to take a global perspective at all times.
That's very true. And no one exemplifies that effort more than your good self. I mean, to cover the whole of Europe, you have a great opportunity to learn and see what works in other countries. Do you find that the different cultures is an additional challenge?
I find that it makes life very, very interesting. I had a multicultural background, very diverse one, so I'm used to it. And I love the different cultures. It makes things so much more exciting. It brings a wealth of experience of new ideas in. It really works well. But you're right, James, that all over our region, I wouldn't just say every district, I would say even within each district, many times, there's a lot of differences. If we take some of the districts that have a lot of countries especially, we see that sometimes communication is difficult. I'll give you an example that we've seen in some districts. I've seen it in at least 3 or 4 districts in our region. There's confusion about how to reach out to the members because certain countries within the district, for example, want to use Facebook. Other countries don't like Facebook and they want to use other means of communication. They may like LinkedIn, for example, and therefore you will have to be very aware when dealing with people across the region, whether it's the district team who are trying to communicate with their countries, whether it's me on a regional level, for example. there are all these differences in how people work and how they think and what methods of communication they prefer. It's just something where it adds spice, I would say, because you have to be aware from the beginning.
It's a great learning experience, isn't it?
It is. And you have to embrace the diversity and be inclusive as well.
But it's part of the wonder of Toastmasters is that although the basic format of meetings remains much the same, every club, every community, every country has its individual ambience and attitudes.
It's very true. And I started to really see that during COVID. Before that, we were in person. I knew my home club. I'd visited a few other clubs in different countries, but it wasn't until COVID, when we all went on Zoom and we could travel around freely, that we started to see even the little differences. For example, I once attended a club in another country, another district, and I had been asked to be the general evaluator. And I said to myself, that's wonderful. I won't come on until the second half of the meeting, because that's how the clubs I knew did it. The meeting begins, and 5 minutes into the meeting, the Toastmaster turns around. We now call upon the general evaluator to describe their role and to call upon the grammarian, etc. And I admit, I was really taken aback. You want me on stage now? Because it was a completely different way of doing it. So as you said, the meetings are more or less the same. We will have our speeches, we will have our table topics, our evaluation, but every club does it a little differently.
Speaking of a worldwide perspective, we're celebrating the centenary of Toastmasters this year. I came across you on a couple of events, again on Zoom. But what events have you particularly enjoyed the most?
I would say that I enjoyed the convention. I have to say that, I was fortunate to be down there in Anaheim, California. Toastmasters International really did themselves proud this time. It was a great moment for them. And it was lovely being there. It was the overall ambiance, the pride we all felt being there all together as fellow Toastmasters, and some of the special events they had. So that event really made me feel, special as wow, I'm a Toastmaster. This is our centennial. We're this wonderful organization, and we're going to go forward for the next 100 years. We did have that feeling there. Having said that, though, I want to say I have attended a number of club events where they've been celebrating the centennial, and I've felt very proud in each and every one of them, because the clubs really outdid themselves. Again, members stepped forward to celebrate joyously with pride. People love Toastmasters, and it's great to see that. Now, having said that, James, I would like to say that a group of us are working towards closing the year with a special little centennial project. And actually, one of the leaders of the project who's working with me is a past district director of District 71, Elizabeth Jordan. And we're going to be interviewing certain people. It's going to be more like panel discussions. People who have contributed specifically to Region 10 over the past few years. I won't say over the past centennial. That would be a bit difficult to get people right from the beginning, unfortunately. But it would be people who have been past leaders of the region, who have been past contestants who represented the region. Also, members who are actively participating in events now, and it's a mix of members. There's new members, there's older members who've been for quite a few decades with us. Therefore, we're going to have these panel discussions with our members that we'll be releasing on social media in early December to close off the centennial year.
That's wonderful, Lilian, because it reverts back to what you were just saying earlier about recognition and the importance of recognition, to recognize and celebrate the achievements of people who 100 years ago, 75 years ago, 50 years ago kept the torch burning.
Exactly. That's what we want to do. We're trying to get a selection of people. Some people served quite a few years ago, and we have members who've been here for 35 years, for example. We have a member who was very active for many years, then stopped being a member and has recently come back. We have new enthusiastic members coming in. We have people who represented Region 10 in the finals of the World Championships, in the semifinals. Excellent people we're very proud of. We have past international directors, past, of course, international presidents from Region 10, past region advisors. We're going for a mix of people, and we're going to be interviewing them in this panel discussion format and giving it a special Region 10 flavor.
Well, I very much look forward to hearing more details about it. And certainly with Elizabeth Jordan involved, you can be sure of enthusiasm and commitment.
I would definitely agree with that.
Tell me, Lilian, who inspires you?
That's a question that I will answer it broadly because I cannot come up with one single name. Over the years, many different people have inspired me, whether it was teachers in school, then professors at the university, some people out in the professional world, definitely a lot of people in Toastmasters. I've seen many people I admire, and when I see somebody who has certain traits I admire, I do try to learn from them. What I can say is that some of these traits I look for now, I look for a person with integrity, who shows respect and empathy, very open person who really first works hard and takes everything they do seriously. That is the kind of leader, I would say, who inspires me, a leader who genuinely cares about their people and their work and moves forward with integrity and respect. And one more thing, something I did not originally have, but I've realized is very important. I like leaders who can find the fun in everything. I think it's very important. So when I see leaders who are really going forward and enjoying everything they do and motivating the people around them in that way, I think it's great.
Well, as a wise man once said, we learn best in moments of enjoyment.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it differently myself, because Dr. Ralph Smedley really, made a difference. And I think that quotation of his is very, very important. And in a way, it reflects everything that Toastmasters is about. It's about learning in a spirit of enjoyment.
What do you think Dr. Smedley would say if he arrived back to a meeting now and saw where his idea that started in that basement in California, where it is today? What do you think he'd think?
I think his first reaction would be one of confusion, because he'd look around and see the laptops, see all this online work we're doing, base camp, and he'd think to himself, what's this? This wasn't what I started out doing. But I believe once it had the time to really sit through some meetings and realize that it is his concept, it's just been adapted to the times, I think he'd be very proud. I would like to believe that anyway, that he would be very proud of us all for continuing his work.
Well, I think you're right. And particularly when you think at the times that he started up in, where everything was by post, whereby Charles Lindbergh made his first flight across the Atlantic. So how he would imagine this kind of thing, how he would imagine your role in all these different countries. I think he would be rather pleased, rather proud.
He would be, as I said in the beginning, a bit confused because in his time, he could never exactly have thought about what a region director could do, a region advisor or a district director could do, because you just didn't have such roles. How could you be a region advisor and visit various districts in those days? It would take forever. But even a district director, because the district directors nowadays, some of them do have to cover a lot of ground, and the PQDs, everything. So he'd be impressed. And the way we work online and the way we market things and attract people, I think it would all be very impressive for him.
It's been said that great leaders like Dr. Smedley were also great readers. What are you reading at the moment, and could you recommend your favorite book?
Usually you'll find me up to my ears in textbooks, because I am also working towards a doctorate and it has to do with ethics. However, now being very busy with district visits, I decided to treat myself, because I do love reading. I love curling up with a good book. And being on a plane does give me the chance to satisfy that. So I said, no more textbooks. I'm on the plane. I'm running around on these lovely district visits that do take a lot out of me. So I'm going to read something I really enjoy, that relaxes me. And I've been rereading the works of Sherlock Holmes. So Arthur Conan Doyle, yeah. The stories of Sherlock Holmes. I really enjoy them because I love the way his mind works, the very structured way, the logic. I love the whodunit part of it. And the fact that there's a historical touch also interests me. Even though today I was discussing with a group of people here in Dublin, and we all agreed that Sherlock Holmes would have made a terrible leader.
A high-functioning sociopath.
If you just look at the basic leadership skills I talked about picking up from Toastmasters, well, Sherlock Holmes was not exactly great at showing empathy. To shift from the I to the we, I think that would be quite hard for him. And recognition, I believe he was recognizing himself, not so much anybody else. Therefore, he wouldn't quite make a good leader, but still an impressive character.
He would be someone who would lead by example. I think John Watson was there to offer the empathy and the sympathy.
Yes, and John Watson, in my opinion, was actually quite an intelligent gentleman, but he was really overshadowed by Sherlock Holmes. So it's interesting the way Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he set it up that way. And we've seen that in other such mystery series as well. And you asked for my favorite book, those change over the years, but I would say whodunits, thrillers, mysteries, I love all of them. And when I was a teenager, I was really into Agatha Christie. Loved her books, even though the first time I read one, I was still quite young. I was 10 years old, perhaps. And maybe it wasn't quite right for me because I remember having nightmares. So it didn't start off well, but afterwards, whenever I had time to relax, I really enjoyed reading her books.
Well, you see, you like the logic of the mystery. That's the engineer in you coming out.
It is, yes. I tend to be rather analytical. So I love working through the stories and seeing who did it. And Agatha Christie was very clever at that.
Very much so. Well, in your limited spare time, apart from reading, what do you do to relax, to chill out, to decompress?
I'm not much of a TV person, actually. In fact, I've been in so many hotel rooms over the past weeks, and I've realized that I've never once turned on the TV. However, Netflix has its attractions. And Right now, I'm rewatching all the episodes of certain Star Trek series because I am a Trekkie. And I picked that up as an engineer at uni, and I do love the Star Trek series. So now I unwind. If I'm not going to read when I'm at home, I'll turn on Star Trek. Other than that, I love to go running. That's my sport of choice. I'll go running in the park. I listen to music, and I like to visit museums, or now living in France, I go and visit the chateau there. I love that touch of history.
Well, Lilian, you might be interested to discover that I think our latest club that's opened here in District 71 is themed is Star Trek.
I am aware of it. Actually, I started watching it with interest some time ago because as region advisor, I am following, what's happening in each district. And I saw that club appearing. And of course, when I saw it was Star Trek themed, I felt it was fascinating. And actually, a few days ago, the president reached out to me. He heard about me from the district team, and I've been invited to go to a meeting. And of course, I accepted with pleasure because it was something I wanted to do anyway. As a club that seems to combine two of my favorite things, Toastmasters and Star Trek, I'd love to see it.
Well, the virtue of modern technology means that you'll be able to beam in. So live long and prosper.
Yes, I wish I could beam in. One day, perhaps we'll have this, and this will even change further the way we work, even at Toastmasters, if we can automatically transport ourselves all over the world. I think that would be wonderful. But for right now, we still have to put up with planes, etc. But we can attend virtually, as you said, at least through Zoom. So that is a big advantage. And who knows in the future?
And at least you can catch up with your reading on the flights.
Yes, but sometimes I feel I could do without the flying. And I'll find another way to catch up on my reading because airports are a huge hassle.
Lilian, you're very involved with Toastmaster activities all over the region. What gives you the most enjoyment and satisfaction?
The most enjoyment, I would say, is derived from going somewhere and seeing fellow Toastmasters really having a good time and benefiting. For example, going to a club and just seeing the members so involved with the program, it makes me feel revitalized. It's wonderful. And I see that even now at the district level. For example, the past 2 days I've spent it with District 71 district members. It's been great because everybody is so excited. I also got to visit the club. And I loved all the energy going through it. And the week before, I was in Lisbon in Portugal. And again, I got to see many members there. So over and over again, it's just this energy I get from the members when you see them really benefiting from our organization. It's the most wonderful thing for me.
Well, Lilian, I'm going to give you the last word, but just before I do that, I just want to once again thank you so much for giving of your time and your energy and your enthusiasm, not only to District 71, but all around Region 10. Toastmasters Unplugged has been brought to you this evening by the District 71 brand builders. And once again, I want to thank Olga Byrne for her generous assistance and technical cooperation in making this event happen. Our next event is on Tuesday, the 26th of November at 6:30, where Nigel Smith and TEDx coach Joan Bowling will talk about the true meaning of communication in a program entitled Stand and Deliver. But now, let me give the last word to our regional advisor, Lilian Shaftacola.
Thank you very much, James. It has been lovely talking to you. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone in District 71. I have found it to be an amazing district full of committed, enthusiastic members, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my last 3 days here. All I can say is I'm coming back soon. And that's all from me. Thank you very much. Good night.